Nowadays, people have a dizzying array of smartphones to pick from, none of which are more prominent than the iPhone. But wasn't it just yesterday that flip phones dominated the market? Actually, no, it's been nearly a decade, and in that time, the device that Mr. Jobs assured us had been patented up, down, and sideways has evolved alongside other developments in mobile technology to become very, very different. So let's take a little journey through time, shall we? The first iPhone launched exclusively on AT&T for $500 for a 4 gig or $600 for 8 gigs of storage in 2007 brought some very important new features to the table that ended up being a major influence on the entire industry. First, interaction with the iPhone became almost completely touch-based, a big change as most smartphones of the era had some kind of physical keyboard attached to them. The original iPhone was also one of the first multi-touch devices, meaning that it could register multiple fingers at once, enabling features like pinch to zoom. Users were additionally treated to a web browser that could access the full web, albeit at cellular data speeds, a breakthrough at the time since most web-enabled phones back then could only access specially designed sites and were shut off from most regular web pages. The very next iPhone, the iPhone 3G, was launched just over a year later and alleviated two of the main pain points of the original. You guessed it, 3G network speeds, and prices dropped to start at $200 on contract. Apple followed this one up with the iPhone 3GS, a performance upgrade with a 32 gig option before rolling out the iPhone 4, whose big feature, aside from the use of more premium glass and aluminum materials instead of plastic in its construction, and the end of AT&T exclusivity, was the concept of a Retina display, Apple's marketing term that they still use heavily today for a display with pixels that are indiscernible from each other at a normal operating distance, a huge improvement over the pixelated junk screens that were common on mobile devices up until that point. This was also the point where we first saw a front-facing camera on the iPhone, enabling FaceTime chats and, for better or for worse, self-portraits or selfies. They followed this up with the 4S variant, which was faster, the S is for speed, had 1080p video recording, a 64 gig option for storing it, and Siri, Apple's sometimes witty voice assistant, but notably at the time, no LTE data support. Know that, along with a much better camera, a lighter aluminum body, and a longer, wider aspect ratio screen, arrived with the iPhone 5. I guess Apple Maps also showed up around this time, but that was seen by many as a rushed-out mistake. And speaking of mistakes, the next generation 5S was accompanied for the first time by a second body option, a plastic value iPhone, the 5C. We'll ignore that though, just like everyone did, and focus on the 5S, which brought fingerprint verification to the mainstream with Touch ID, as well as a gold finish for people who care about the bling bling, characteristics that it shares with the iPhone 6 that replaced it, and finally addressed Apple's users' desire for more storage and larger screens, with both the 4.7-inch standard and 5.5-inch Plus model available in up to 128 gigabyte capacities, not to mention slow-mo video capture at 240 FPS and near-field communication supporting Apple Pay. Which brings us finally then to the latest model, the iPhone 6S, whose primary innovations are that it can record up to 4K video to its lightning-fast NVMe-based onboard storage, and 3D Touch, which allows the screen to distinguish hard presses versus soft presses and execute different actions accordingly. What a journey, right? It sure has been, but even though the iPhone has come a really long way in just 8 years, a number of common criticisms remain. Even now, the base iPhone has a mere 16 gigabytes of storage, which, especially now that iOS has grown over its 9 iterations, is simply not enough, and Apple still gives their users no way to insert an SD card for additional storage. And although Apple's innovation on most iPhones has been well received, they have been slow to adopt some of the features commonly found on competing Android handsets, such as 1440 1040p or 4K screens. On top of that, the iPhone also keeps its reputation for being a closed environment that discourages tinkering and self-repair. With all that said though, the iPhone is probably going to remain a mainstay on the smartphone scene for a very long time, meaning that shouting matches between Apple and Android fans in comment sections, just like what is probably below me here, aren't going anywhere soon. Speaking of things that aren't going anywhere, your business, if you can't figure out how to stop wasting time on paperwork, sitting at your computer at the end of the day when you're just tired and don't want to deal with it anymore, instead of spending your time getting rested and doing the work that you're supposed to be doing. And that's where FreshBooks comes in. It's an online tool that you can access from your iPhone or other phone or mobile device that makes invoicing, getting paid, and tracking your expenses easier. All those little details about like how many hours you worked on this job and your cash flow are in one place, so you always know where you stand, and it shows a full history of each invoice, allowing you to check if your client has viewed it and also allowing your client to pay via credit card through FreshBooks. So if you're your own boss, you should be using stuff that makes you feel like a boss, and FreshBooks is the easy way of doing your billing online, so you'll have more time to do the work you actually need to be doing. Head over to freshbooks.com/TechQuickie, and don't forget to enter TechQuickie in the How Did You Hear About Us section to get a free trial today. Thanks for watching, guys. If you liked this video, hit that like button. If you disliked it, hit the dislike button, I guess. Heartbreaking now. But if you have more to say than just this or this, then leave a comment, maybe leave a video suggestion. We do check those out. And don't forget to subscribe and follow for more TechQuickie videos just like this one.